Okay, fight fans, welcome back to Fight Week Roundup for the week of the 11th of June, 2014. I, of course, am Manny Montreal, or Manny MTL. So, as always, I'm going to start off with what we can go see. First thing I want to bring up, Eye of the Tiger Management on Lucky Friday the 13th is putting on a show at the Pierre Carbonneau Center. There's still some cheap tickets left. It's 11jun's return. Do yourself a favor, go check them out. Also, Grant Brothers Boxing is going to be putting on a Canadian championship belt fight on the 28th of June at the Catalogna Soccerplex. Now, keep in mind, these guys used to be in a hotel and they're moving to a soccer field. So I think the cheapest tickets are $40. It's going to be a great show. These guys really know what they're doing. They really started putting together a great show. So check them out at Grant Brothers Boxing. Great team, great gym, great show. I can't wait to go see it. So if we skip ahead to what we can go see, this week, obviously, there's still some stuff on Wednesdays and Thursdays and Fridays, but I got so much to talk about, I'm going to skip right ahead to Saturday. So obviously, if you're not watching the UFC or HBO, there's one other thing I would suggest to go watch on Saturday, or at least DVR. That would be One Fighting Championships Era of Champions. It's going to be live on the Fight Network at 9 p.m. It's airing it from Jakarta, Indonesia, live from 7 a.m. Listen, if you don't know what I'm talking about, just do yourself a favor. Soccer kicks are legal. Enough said. Next, I want to bring up the HBO card. We got HBO After Dark at 10 p.m. Two fights on there I want to talk about. On the undercard, you got Demetrius Andrade fighting Brian Rose. Now, don't know much about Brian Rose. Demetrius Andrade's been making waves. I'm interested in seeing what he has to do. He's going to be on the show, so let's see what he can put out. Last but not least about that, I want to bring up the one word that is on every boxing head's mind right now. Provodnikov. Oh, this guy is a boxer's dream. They call him the Russian Rocky. His face looks like it was cut out of a leather bag. He doesn't speak any English. He eats moose liver. The kid's a monster. Do yourself a favor. Go YouTube him. Monster with a capital M. The guy's a beast. It's gonna be guaranteed great stuff. Do yourself a favor. HBO free Saturday. Now also, UFC wise, I have to bring up, because obviously there's a lot of Canadian content, UFC 174 in Vancouver, BC. It's going to be a big card. There's 7 Canadians on the card overall. Just a little asterisk, I want to bring up the only female fight of the night will be a girl called Valerie Letourneau. That's who you want to root for, people. She's Canadian and that's all I care about. Also, opening up the card, there's a couple of other fights, but the one I want to bring up is Cajun Johnson versus Tai Bang. Now, Cajun was on The Ultimate Fighter at 170 pounds, and for this fight, he's going to be fighting at 155 pounds. He's a little dude, and this might work out a bit better for him. I think he walks around at about 170 normally. Now, if you don't know who this kid is, basically he's a black-white Indian kid, and Indian feather, not dot. The kid's phenomenal. I personally think he would have won the Ultimate Fighter had he not got screwed over by Patrick Cote and that whole Jesus Freak crew. So, that being said, Cajun Johnson, there will be blood. Also, for the rest of the card, now you got a lot of do or die situations here. You got Yves Jabouin against Mike Easton. Now, both guys, hot and cold. It's basically, if you don't cream this guy, you're probably getting your walking papers. Same goes for Ryan Jimmo and Ovid St. Preux. Both guys have had some hype and then dropped back down, had some hype and dropped back down, and now they're facing off against each other. Then you got Brendan Schaub, who's done everybody but the guys at the top he's had issues with. And I mean, he's fighting Andrei Arlovski, who's making his comeback. Now, soon that dude's nose is going to be in the back of his head. I don't know if you've seen Andrei Arlovski soon, but he's on his third coming now. And who knows? I mean, this is a crazy sport. So I'm hoping nothing bad happens. And Andrei Arlovski's, a little older than the rest of these guys on the card. So I'm hoping everybody has a safe fight. But the truth is, I think everybody on the entire cards in a do or die kind of situation. And I mean, you got Ryan Bader and Rafael Cavalcante. Again, hot and cold, hot and cold. Ryan Bader had some hype behind him, and then he dropped down, then now he's on his way back up. And, you know, it's the same thing for Rafael Cavalcante. Same thing for the second card of the night, our boy Rory McDonald versus Tyrone Woolley. Now, I want to say a couple things. Everyone's talking about how Rory's overhyped. Now, in this particular fight, everyone's talking shit about Rory. However, Tyrone Woolley, everyone's talking big about him. I want to point out a couple things I have an issue with. Everyone keeps talking about Tyrone Woolley beating Carlos Condit. He kicked him in the knee, his knee snapped, and he dropped. Before that, Carlos Condit was holding his own. So, him beating him or his knee snapping, it's arguable. Also, when it comes to Rory, I find that every time people have talked great about him, like, oh, he's the next one, this is the fight, you're gonna see, this kid's an animal, he does shit. And then every time they talk bad about him, they're like, oh, well, you know, it's do or die for him, and if he doesn't pull out, this tough competitor, and they start talking about his competitor more than him, he crushes the dude. So, again, with the Cajun thing, there will be blood. I predict Tyrone Woolley's gonna get fucked up. So, next, I want to bring up Demetrius Johnson versus Ali Bagatinov. Now, this is the flyweight champ, and they made it the main fight, but I mean, it's tough, and it's the first time they're gonna do a flyweight fight as the last fight, and it's tough just as people don't realize why it's tough, and it's like, oh, well, maybe because he's not a big enough star. The guy's practically a Ninja Turtle. Demetrius Johnson's so crazy to watch. I don't even care who he's fighting. It's going to be interesting. However, the problem with it is, if you start off your show with these big dudes fighting the whole night, and then you end off the show and the dudes are this big in the ring, and it's talking about people in the stands anyway, you kind of lose some perspective, you know? People are kind of used to the heavyweights being the main attraction. So, I mean, it'll take some time for people to get used to it, but I mean, this is a good move. It's their first pay-per-view one. I mean, they've done a couple free cards where Demetrius has fought, and I mean, the kid wants some pay-per-view money, so hopefully he puts on a show and people, you know, get behind him and they can keep doing these for the flyweights and bantamweights at least, because personally, the lower you go, the more action you see. Anyway, so that's it for me this week. Have a good night, guys. Have a good week. Hopefully everyone has a safe fight. And I'll catch you guys next week.